a person that identifies a biological man that identifies as a woman or vice versa, a trans person, is that rooted in some form of trauma? Or is that something that is a natural organic expression in nature? Or is it somewhere in between? How does that happen where a person looks down at the objective genitals on their body and they say, this isn't me?
Well, I had that because I remember a lot of lives being a woman. So my main lives that I remember, I was a woman, and my whole teenagehood, I was I was disgusted by being a man because I didn't want to be a man in this life. I remember myself being a woman, so I was like, I don't want to have these genitals. I don't want to have this. And my main thing was I wanted to be pregnant in this life, and that's one of my traumas. Like I wanted to be the mother of my child myself, not having to wait for someone else to get pregnant. I wanted to go through all the process myself. That was something that I had my whole teenagehood, and even today, I like 2 months ago, I went through that trauma again. So, um, so for myself, I also I know what it's to be in that position. So I'm not speaking about other people. I'm speaking about myself. Um, so uh, so in that perception, I could tell that it's a memory of my water, is a memory of my mind that had a perception on on I am a woman. I know that in my cells the memory is I am a woman too. So why I cannot be a woman? So of course I went through all this process in my childhood, in my teenagehood, of why in this life I'm not a woman. And then through all that process, through the understanding and learning how to love the cells and the design that I created for myself in this life, I I started to love my body and to choose to be a man. Of course, to have the mental yeah, the choice in my inner self of saying I like to be a man. I like to be this. So it was an acceptance of every cell of my body throughout years that took me a while. But um, every perception that you have of yourself is basically something that is wired in your brain that is telling you what is the truth, even if it's not the truth in the physical world. So, what is a trauma? Trauma comes from the word wound. And all our personality, everything that we are, is a trauma because we split from one cell, we cut ourselves in half at the beginning. So everything that we are is a trauma. So by saying this, for example, a man that feels very masculine, it can be also a trauma because it feels that has to provide the feminine because all his ancestors were doing that. So now he cannot be weak or cannot allow the feminine side of crying if something happens because there's a trauma that tells that a man must be masculine.
What is up? I want to first of all thank you for being here, and secondly announce we are doing a giveaway for subscribers of this channel. All you need to do for a chance to win sweet prizes such as this portable red light from Mito Red Light, also be giving away the Mito Pro, which is a larger panel, is subscribe to the channel. Extra entries will be given out for people commenting on episodes, and extra entries also be given out for sharing this episode and tagging me, Aaron Alexander, on Instagram. So every 5,000 subscribers, we will announce a new winner. We'll be doing this at least up to 100,000 subscribers. So that is it. Subscribe, comment, share for a chance to win sweet prizes. Good luck to you, and I appreciate you being here.
So so everything has a trauma behind. So in my case, I had a trauma behind. And it's not a trauma that that ended when I was 19. It's a trauma that I even felt 2 years ago, and it's something that it might show up again in a few years. So um, the thing is that sometimes when we speak about these situations, um, a lot of people that are traumatized by their own selves and their own perception, they believe that we are against these people. Like, I'm not saying you are wrong. I'm just saying is a perception. Is a perception the same way that my truth is a perception. You know, so um, I think that if we all actually recognize that every perception of every living being is a perception born from a trauma that has been repeated in ourselves for so long, we could get along easily with everybody, because no one is going to be defending its own truth, and everyone will be accepting the other's perception. The only problem is when you try to defend it as this is right or this is wrong. So when you try to defend that in the universe, there's nothing right or nothing wrong. So it's just perceptions. So in my own experience, I lived this as a trauma, and I still perceive that as a trauma. And I went through all the process until I recognized in this life my cells are masculine, and I allow myself to be a masculine, but I could have chosen the other way, for example. And yeah.
What do you think? I appreciate you sharing that. What do you think of the implications of a person getting a sex change are? Not putting a moralistic right wrong, but one path finding coherence with, here's the objective, you know, matter that I've been endowed with. How do I come into coherence with this plane of reality? Another path, I will change this objective matter and, augment the plane and go down that path. What does that look like between the two?
Well, it creates another trauma, that maybe in that moment you don't see it, but eventually it will come up. So um, it will be another trauma. Every decision that you take uh, in those terms, it's going to be another trauma, and your whole body structure has specific chakras that regenerate your energy from the genitals. So the genitals are the main base of power in your body. Like all the kundalini energy arises from your genitals. By mutilating the genitals just by I believe, you're taking the source of your own power. And biologically, you're taking the source of your own power. Mentally, you're not. Mentally, you can do whatever you want. Like in your soul, in your mind, that doesn't affect. It's another trauma, but actually is another choice in the universe. Like you can do anything you want in the universe because it's infinite. So it's not, as I said, it's not wrong or bad. Is like, I mean, I'm not against it. Like I'm totally like supporting that. Like whoever wants to do it, of course, I'm totally supportive in that. Knowing that biologically, the source of your power, the source of your biological power gets distorted, and there's an aspect of your being that loses the power. So, but it can also happen with a disease, like it's I don't know, or an accident. It's not just because the change of the sex is. It can be anything that actually takes the power of your genitals.